SSW's Jack Pettit is up next, and in this video he's going to show you how to get started with .NET MAUI. He's going to cover all the basics and show you how you can get to grips with .NET MAUI and start building your apps today. Check out his video, let us know what you think.
This talk will kind of be an addition onto kind of what Sam was talking about before. It's going to be a kind of a getting started into .NET MAUI. So I'll save you the time of converting all those binary digits. It does say hello world, nothing too crazy. So that is, yeah, a little thing there. But yes, welcome everyone to .NET MAUI Hack Day for 2022. So a little about me. I'm Jack Pettit, a software engineer here at SSW. I'm mainly more of a front-end type of guy, but working at an enterprise company where we make custom software, obviously touch every system and basically full stack, but do prefer more of the front-end type of side. Worked on Xamarin previously and liked it enough to see what MAUI had in store. So I guess a little bit about me, motorbike rider. I think someone else also rode a motorbike into Brisbane today, so that's cool. I love it. Love to see it. I'm a gamer as well, and you can follow me at the Twitter and GitHub links there as well. So today, we're going to be just going over what is .NET MAUI, how you can get set up. We'll give you a little walkthrough of kind of the project structure. It's changed quite a bit from Xamarin, I think, for the better. They really simplified it a lot. Then we'll kind of expand from their basic Hello World app, and then at the end, just link some further links and places you can find other stuff. So what is .NET MAUI? So from the basics, it's a cool new thing out of Microsoft, and I really believe it's a great improvement from Xamarin Forms. I know Matt G calls it the kind of Xamarin version 6, but I think Microsoft and the community have done a really great job so far. Again, you'll notice immediately that once you start the app or a new project, the whole project structure is different. And I think it's really improved the kind of developer experience and first kind of getting to know where you are in the app. Again, a little later, I'll show you a demo about this. But yes. So what does MAUI actually stand for? Sam did mention it before. It is multi-platform app UI. Thank you, Microsoft. They did think about this one. And if that didn't give it away, it is a cross-platform framework. So maybe I'm a little biased, but it's using everyone's favorite language, C#. So if you're familiar with .NET, you can basically jump in and get started straight away. But what does that truly mean? Well, just build one app and you can publish it to iOS, Android, macOS, and Windows. There is, I believe, a community fork as well for Linux, very experimental. And then we've also got Samsung working for the TVs with Tizen. So a little of the goods and bads. There is a lot of positives. It is a brand new framework and everyone loves it. I think it's, once again, a massive improvement over Xamarin Forms, but it's still very much the same. You're still working with XAML and the good and bad that comes with that, especially me coming from the front-end side. I'm used to HTML, CSS, and people, I guess my personal opinion is I prefer HTML over that. Controversial to some of my co-workers, but it is good to learn it. So starting with a good developer experience, I really do think it has kind of taken it a step further than Xamarin Forms. It's just a bit easier to work around. And if you know Xamarin, you'll be coming into .NET MAUI knowing how everything really works. There have been a few changes, but changes for the better. Again, if you're good with C#, you'll be coming in here and it'll be just like any other, working with any other API. And lastly, open source. Love Microsoft really pushing the open source project. So if you have issues, you can just submit them. And maybe if you're brave enough, you can even try tackle them. So some of the bad, it is still a new framework, relatively new. So some of the UI frameworks aren't completely feature complete. So you will still have to do a bit of further customization. It's not like you can go for like a React project, like, oh, how do I do this thing? And you can just search and it'll be like the first result. You'll probably have to be Googling a bit, have a look at more complex handlers, which were renderers previously in Xamarin. And that kind of does have a little bit more of a learning curve because it is going down to the lower level APIs of the individual platforms. And then lastly, hot reload. It's amazing when it works. Though every day there is always issues where, oh, look, it's kind of lost track of where you're up to. So yeah, you do have to still restart, but it's getting there and it does save a lot of time when it works. So all Microsoft applications do have docs. Some are better than others, and they do have a lot of docs, but they do seem to be keeping the .NET MAUI getting started up to date, which is great to see. So you can head over to this. I've made it a smaller URL, tiny link, but you can just enter getting started with .NET MAUI into Google, and it should be the first Microsoft Docs to come up there. As Sam was saying previously, for Windows, they have made it pretty stable now, so you don't need any preview version on Windows or Visual Studio to actually install MAUI. However, if you are on a Mac, you do need the preview version. So let's do a little demo of kind of, let's create a brand new MAUI app. And we'll do a little bit of a walkthrough, kind of show you around the structure, how resources are managed, styles, and some of the XAML and code behind. So let me just open this one. And move it over here. Perfect. Oh, my screen is backwards. That's good to see. Cool. So I've just opened Visual Studio 2022. I'm a preview, but it is version 17.3. So if you are using the preview one and you want to work with .NET 6, you will have to use 17.3. The newest preview, which is 17.4, has .NET 7. So you have to use I believe RC2 of MAUI, which is on that .NET 7. So let's just create a new project here. And let us type in MAUI. Oh, wow, it's actually, my computer's a little quicker today. That's good to see. And we want this first one here. Obviously, as Sam was talking about before, the Blazor side is super awesome. We won't be going into that today, but that is really, really cool. If you want to check that out, highly recommend it. A lot of coworkers have tried it out and they really love the integration, how seamless everything is with that. So let's go next down here. And let's just call this MAUI Hack Day 2022. Let me just save this somewhere a bit better. Yeah, let's get here. Perfect. And then, yes, we want .NET 6 for this one. So this will just create a brand new MAUI application here, a little hello world. And let me bring it back over again. So there is a little bit of tooling to start up here. Oop. Let me just move some of this stuff out of the way for you. Okay. Maybe I zoomed in a bit too far. Okie dokie. So getting started, let's go to the actual MAUI program here. So this is kind of the entry point of MAUI. We've got this builder, and we can see it's using this the app, and we're grabbing these fonts, which if we head over into this resources, we can see we've got this font section. And previous versions, or in Xamarin Forms, this structure is completely different. It had kind of like 3 folders, 3 kind of projects. It had a project for iOS, Android, and then Xamarin itself. So you'd end up having to kind of duplicate a lot of the fonts and a lot of the images you wanted across all the different platforms you needed. And they've kind of combined everything now and made it so much more simple, which shout out Microsoft. Thank you guys. So while we're in resources here, we may as well have a look at some of the other folders in here. So obviously the app icon, just little SVG files, images, any of the other assets, splash screen, and then styles. So styles is really cool. You'll be using this a lot. So it's a resource dictionary. And here you can kind of customize custom keys that are static that you'll be able to use throughout your app. And then in the style section, you can set, instead of, say if you want a label, or say if you want all labels to have a certain style, you can kind of enter it in here and say dark mode or light mode, you want different colors for these, for a label. And you've got the custom colors. You can just come in here and it will figure it out from here. So this style's super useful. I won't go too deep into this one, but there's a whole bunch of customization, and the docs around this is really good. So onto the actual, I guess, the first entry point. So this is loading the resources. So this is the colors and the styles here. And then here you can see we're calling this main page, which should be the app shell. So a little into the app shell here. This was kind of started in the later half of Xamarin Forms. It's kind of like an all-encompassing navigation system and window that really eases the one UI. So you don't have to do a lot of the custom. Oh, okay, I want to save a track of history of all the previous navigation. I want this at the top. It just really simplifies everything. And they've really pushed it here, making it the default. So in this app shell.xaml file, we've got this little shell content. We've got home. We've got the template it's using, which is the main page, and the route it's got. And as you'll see in here, it's kind of just initializing this component. Obviously, this can do a lot more. There's a lot of events you can call, depending on what you need. So let's actually have a look at this main page.xaml now. So this is one of the ways you will be working with MAUI. It isn't 100% the only way you have to use MAUI. If you don't like XAML, you don't have to use it. You can write all your UI in C# if you really felt like it. And there's some cool different frameworks that I'll talk about later on, where if you really don't like the MVVM style, there are alternatives to that. So if you have used XAML before, or I like to call it the juiced up XML, the docs are pretty good. And the, what's this called? Code hinting IntelliSense is also amazing. So they do keep the names quite simple and straightforward. So you do kind of, once you know kind of what you're looking for, it is pretty easy to find And they do have a lot of the stuff that you normally find in WPF applications in here as well. There are some slight differences. It isn't a one-to-one. You do miss out on some of the I'm going to call flex boxes, but they do have a lot of the main important ones. So let's just have a look in here a bit more. So we've got this new semantic properties. So this is super cool. They're really pushing accessibility with this one. So now you can really make your apps accessible. You can add descriptions, heading levels, and once I move over to the code behind, you'll see that you can even programmatically output sound. So once again, this is the Hello World app. So before I start it, all it is just a little counter. And as you can see here, once we click the count button, it is just incrementing that. And then the semantic reader will be announcing if you've got that set up. So let's just actually run this. And I'm going to do it as using the Android emulator targeting Android 12. So let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. Sometimes the emulators don't like to play nice. So it is currently building. And my machine is making a lot of noise. So that is a good sign. So I guess while this one actually loads up, let's just go back to the PowerPoint real quick. So just to give a bit more of an explanation of XAML, it's an extensible application markup language. And yeah, once again, it is kind of the default and first probably way you will be using and creating apps in MAUI. Once again, I like to think of it as, a bit more juiced up. And it is pretty cool how it all works, allowing you really to kind of separate your logic into the code behind and still have the strong typing that you would have everywhere else. The code behind, so this is kind of where all the magic happens. You can create functions, properties, and then reference them straight into the UI. I might not show it today, but it's kind of generating these static files where you really can kind of see how MAUI is actually thinking and how everything's being built if you truly want to have a look at that. So yeah, when you start working out, the code behind is kind of the easiest way. I wouldn't recommend it if you're looking for a serious application. It can get very messy if you start just putting all your code without following any of the common patterns below. But there are definitely cases where using the code behind is the correct thing to do. So don't fall into the motion of, hey, that people are saying MVVM is the way, but it just doesn't feel right for this situation. Sometimes it's just not, and code behind is where you should be putting some stuff. So currently with MAUI, there are two, kind of three supported patterns for writing MAUI apps, and they can dictate the approach of how everything works together. Again, given the time constraints of this talk, I won't be going into too much depth with each of these, but I'll just give you the kind of like the high level overview of them. So MVVM, or model view model, is kind of the default choice when working with MAUI. It's what Microsoft recommend, and a lot of their examples kind of link you to how to do it the MVVM way. So think of it as model is the definition of the data. The view is the actual UI parts, and the view model kind of sits between and communicates the logic to those separate things. RX UI, so it's reactive UI. it's kind of just built onto MVVM, but using more of the reactive programming. So a lot more of the fluent and observables where event-based programs are kind of sitting. And lastly, the MVU. So if you have previously used React Native or Flutter is the other big one. This is kind of what you've already been used to using. So it's where the UI is kind of immutable and it forces kind of functional reactive programming. So you're going to be rebuilding your UI every change. But if that is something you're looking into, there is a GitHub repo called Comet that is pretty experimental at the moment, but it's looking promising. And I've used it a little bit. I'm really enjoying it. So let's go back to the app and hopefully it has built. It looks like it has. Let me just bring it over here. Cool. So this is what you get from the kind of hello world starting project. So we get a little hello world, a little click me, and obviously once it's been clicked, you will see clicked, and then eventually it will show the amount of times it's been clicked. Currently using dark mode, so this does support light mode as well, and we can go into the settings. And if we did go, I can't spell doc, there we go. If we did change it to light theme, the UI should update as well. And it does, yay, perfect. Just because I like dark mode better, I will go back to dark mode though. Perfect, okie dokie. So let's have a bit more of a look into this project. Sorry, I'm using a keypad, the mouse pad at the moment. Cool. So let's try to expand this a bit. And let's say for the labels, so I'm just going to do a little simple search in here. So we've got this style, it's targeting the type of label. And we can see on this like first line here, the text color, we're binding it to this app theme and of light and dark. And then we've got this static resource and this gray 900. So that gray 900 and that white, or actually just the gray 900 is coming from this colors file here. So in here, let's create a new color that we want to use. So I'm just going to call it custom color. Very creative today. And let's do Adam's favorite color, CC4141. And let's come back over into the styles here. And for dark, let's change it to the custom color. And we can see it even had IntelliSense to show that, hey, we have actually created it. Let me just try to find this again. Let's see. Cool. And as you can see, I didn't have to restart the app. Hot reload is working. Shout out. And the text there has changed to the CC4141. So let's go back to this main page and let's change some stuff and add some stuff in here. So let's get rid of some of these labels. We'll keep the image, why not? And we will add let's do a simple login, just a little username and password. So for inputs, there is an entry control. And with this one, we can, if we're using code behind, there's this little name property. And this will just generate like, hey, we in the UI, we have an input or entry, and we want to be able to reference this via this name. So I'm just going to call this username input. And then I will do the same for the password. Another little entry here with password input. And I will save that. And with any luck, you can't see it here. Maybe let's give these a little background color so we can see where they are. Let's set this to gray. And let's do the same for this one as well. Cool. So now hopefully, yes, cool. So we've got two entries now, and we can type in these. But you'll notice this password one, hey, it's still showing the text, and we probably don't want that for a password. So a lot of these default controls do have some really nice features. For this entry, there is actually is password, and we can set that to true. And that's all set up for us. So super, super handy. All right, but that looks a bit boring. So let's add a little label as well. So we can tell people, hey, what's actually going on. And you'll find a theme with all of these controls. They normally follow kind of the similar properties. So for most things, if you want to add text to it, it is the text property. So we can say, hey, this is a username. And then we can come down here and we can go, the text of this one is password. And while we are here, let's change this semantic property. We'll keep the button, but we'll change it up. Login. And let's also change the text on this one to login. And we'll call this a login button. And maybe while we're here, we should be able to create a new event. Login button clicked. Cool. So now if we have a look in the code behind for this main page XAML, there should be a new function in here called login button. And we'll be seeing some errors now because we've changed the name of that UI piece for the button. So it can't actually find this anymore. But we don't really need this. So we can just delete that. And let's come in here. So what do we want this login click button really to do? Well, we're just going to keep it simple. Let's just hard code some usernames. Definitely don't do this in production. And we'll also hard code a password. We'll call it, I don't know, hack day 22. Please don't hack me. And now we can kind of come in here and let's just do some very simple logic. I think that is a semicolon. Let me just fix that. We'll go if username is not null or is null. Let's do that. It's a bit better. Or password is null, then we probably don't want to continue. And if the what is it? What did we call it? We called it the username input. Oh, this is where we might actually need to restart this one, so we can get some of these names going. So let's have a look. So we should be able to come in here, user name input. We should see the text. And we should be able to go dot equals the username. And the password input. Dot text, which is the property of that UI, equals, and that should be the password. So let's try to figure out why this isn't working. Gotta love doing everything live. Obviously, I have missed a step here.
Hey, Jack.
Label, text, password. That's looking okay. Login button, class.
Line 28, Jack.
Line 28. Dun, dun, dun. Aha. My hero. See, that's why we have Matt G. Perfect. So while we are here, let's just give this a name. So I'm going to call this Maui Day page, for example. So not only can you reference individual controls, but you can also reference pages. So this will give us a kind of like a binding context that we can connect to, and then we can actually hook up a lot of the stuff. So we'll be using that in a little bit. Look at that. Happy days. We've got everything. The code behind can now actually see. Cool. We've got a username input. We've got a password input. But now what are we actually going to do down here? Well, let's create a little why not? We'll call it is authenticated. And obviously we'll set it to false. We don't want anyone coming in and stealing our identity. And then we'll just create another one here called is authenticated. And this will be a kind of a get and set property. So we'll just go return. What lovely recommendations. And yes. But this might be an issue here, but we can come back to this one. So let's go in here and we will set equals true. Wow, perfect. If they, yeah, we won't worry about the other cases here. I'm sure that'll be fine. All right, let's move back over to this main page here. So, and let's just restart it again because it has closed. And cool. So we got the custom theme going. We got the little login button down here. Let's just set a little breakpoint to see if everything is working. Down at this little authenticated part here. Let's just go back. And what do we set this to? We set it to Maui. And we set it to Hack Day 22. So with any luck, we click this and we should hit this, which we do. Awesome. So that's cool and all. But maybe let's have a trigger to kind of show, hey, you have actually logged in. So under here, let's just add a label. We'll give it a name of, what do we want to call this? Authenticated. And we want to give this a data trigger. First off, actually, we just want to give it a trigger. Label.triggers. So a lot of controls have triggers and kind of events that you can make the UI react to. So this trigger one, there's a few different solutions in here. There's the data trigger. So on change of some code behind value, we want the UI to change. Well, this property in particular to change. I think also here we do need to set a just binding context to the actual page itself. Let's go source of reference. And then we just want the Maui Day example. Hopefully that will do it. So what do these take? They take a Oh, you know what? Let me just cross-reference so I'm not forgetting anything over here. Perfect. So yes, these do take a target type. And I may have also subbed something. No, that's looking okay. Cool. So these take a target type, and for this, it will be label. And then we do want to actually bind it to something as well. So I've definitely missed something again, but we want to bind this to this property that is in the code behind. So it is the authenticated. And when this value is true, we want it to set this label with a setter here. And we want the property of that to be text. So we want to set the label's text property when this is true to a value of authenticated. And let's just see what we've done wrong here. Label triggers. Right. We don't need that. Happy days. And let's do another one of these for when it's false. So we can just copy and paste this and change this to false, and we'll just say not authenticated. So with any luck, we should see, well, authenticated at the moment, but if we restart this one, we should see this not authenticated. Now, there is some unique things with event, bindings in general and reactability. So we might get an issue here. So let's just type in MAUI, and then if I remember the password, which was the MAUI Hack Day. Let me just have a little look again. MAUI Hack Day. Cool. So Hack Day 22, and we press login. You notice, hey, this property hasn't actually updated, but if we actually go into the code behind and we put a little breakpoint here, you'll be like, hey, we are actually hitting this. So what's going on? And as you can see, we are hitting it. So what's happening is when we're getting to this set point, which is being triggered, it's just not actually talking to the UI. So we just need to call this on property changed. And with any luck, after a little restart, it should be working. Oops. Let's just continue 1,000 times. Maybe do a little restart. And then if this works, that will kind of be the end of this little demo. So that should give a not authenticated. Oh no. Well, that's okay. I won't bore you with with all that anymore. But yes, there is some definite cool stuff you can do with data triggers and responsiveness over here. So let's go back to the PowerPoint and talk about some of the further resources you guys can look into to kind of learn a bit more about MAUI and get your feet into the door and get started. So if you want to note this down, I will put these up on my GitHub as well, so you can find these. there's first off the awesome .NET style repos by some of the creators and maintainers. We've also got the learn.NET MAUI, which also has some awesome resource in there. We've got inside of that one, Matt G's book. Shout out Matt G. And then we've got the community toolkit. Definitely something to look into. Super awesome. But I feel even just the normal staple .NET MAUI samples really has a lot of the examples of like how everything works and all of that. So we've covered kind of what is .NET MAUI, how we've set it up, a little walkthrough of the project structure, expanded on adding a few fields and showing you a bit of the data triggers and how the code behind and XAML work, and then some further resources. So thank you so much. Hope you learned something or feel in the mood to learn a bit more about MAUI. It's just the start of the day, so there'll be some awesome talks later on. I think there's a MVVM talk, so hopefully you'll be able to learn some of that stuff there.